biggest reasons why is because you are a person who I can really say walks with humility. You know, it's not every day that you'll come across someone, you know, who truly just walks in within the essence of who they are. And I know that comes with a purpose, but I also know it's a reason why you got to that point. And man, I want to be able to dive in a little bit today, you know, and to talk about those things that really allow you to be who you are today. Is that cool with you?
That's cool with me.
All right, man.
Yeah.
One of the first things that when we talk that I didn't know, because we come across each other in the field of recovery.
Right.
You know, so in recovery, we're already operating on the opposite side of the transition from which we once were. You
Right.
know, so we get to see the output. You know what I mean, from the input. So learning that, man, I realized at one point that you work within the TDC system.
Absolutely.
And for me, you know, I'm glad that we met on the other side because I have my own experiences
Right.
from TDC, you know, and I have my experiences from what they may consider to be an inmate. But your experience was different. Man, let's talk about it for a second.
Well, at the age of 23, 8 months out of the military, I was fortunate enough to get a job with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And before I knew it, 10 years had passed, and I found myself back in Dallas because I experienced a growth within that system of 40 units when I initially started, and the growth, I knew it was just a matter of time before a unit would be in Dallas.
Right.
And so I was able to come back home in '95 in that system. But I learned that because you gave me a great compliment once.
Right.
You said, man, how is it a person on your side can come and work with a person, you know, on this side?
Right.
Well, the thing of it is that I found out a long time ago that I could have been very well one of those people in white.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I should have been.
Right.
And so I began to look at the population as a person, as a fellow human being.
Right.
And really wanted to make a difference. So the job became a mission.
Okay.
And so, you know, not realizing that it would set a foundation for what I would continue to do probably for the rest of my life.
Right. And being able to hear you say that, right? And I hear you saying that you found the good within yourself and to can treat people as human beings and not see difference within the people. You know, being that you may be in uniform and they may be in the opposite uniform of being, you know, in white. But also acknowledging the fact that it could have been you.
It could have been me.
Not only could it have been you, it potentially should have been you. In that awareness and that understanding about yourself, right? What really was the transitional point to allow you to genuinely see that?
To allow me to actually see it, it's a true story. I looked up one day and I saw my dealer at the state jail. A person that I had gotten my substances from. So this thing called fear set in.
Right.
Could have said a number of things, done a number of things, but that person never said anything. And right then, I knew I needed to do something different.
Right.
I needed to do something different in order to continue to make a difference.
Right. And I want to be able to create this space for people to really be able to understand what you're saying. And when you say that you saw your dealer in the prison system, then how that awoken you to who you are, and then who it was meant for you to be.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, we think that, we're different, or we're separate, or we don't share some of the same things. But as you told me before, you was like, I'm just a person who didn't get caught.
That's all.
But even without being caught, you actually saw yourself caught. And from you being caught by just an experience of what you've seen and what you knew in your private life, and for your private life to meet you in your work life, it was awakening.
It was awakening. It was something that was needed.
Yeah.
And from that, being in a position to where you're talking about your career, you're talking about your livelihood, you're a family man.
Yep.
You've learned to. You've always worked hard, and at the same time, you begin to understand that there's been a covering over your life.
Right.
There's been a covering over your life for something that was meant to be, that's beyond you. You don't even understand it. Right. But I was able to move on from that. About 6 months later, I transferred to parole, got off that unit, and kept my nose clean from that point on.
Right.
That happened in '98, and my recovery date, and I've been sober since March 6th of '99. A little over 24 years now. So with that came a responsibility and an awakening. Sometimes, you have to go through something traumatic,
right,
to wake you up.
Yeah. And I won't even say to what you just said, right? I won't even say sometime. Before the show even started, we was talking a little bit, and we talked a little bit about trauma. And trauma is something that, for me, it's a great focal point on life in order to be able to help people through life, right? Through life changes. And as we know, in recovery, one of the tools that we have is being able to be motivational speaker, to use motivational interviewing to help people through the change in the phases of life. You
Absolutely.
Know what I mean? So for me, it was understanding that trauma was something that was actually needed in life. It was no way that you can get away from it. So if trauma was something that you can never get away from, it had to mean that it wasn't something to hurt you in life or to hinder you in life, but it was actually meant to actually build you up in life.
Absolutely.
But it comes to you to begin to see yourself on the inside, to pay attention to these traumas, and to be able to be empowered from the trauma. But what we begin to do, is look at things as being so traumatic that we shield it away. We try to bury it. We try to but it never seems to bury itself. So it wasn't meant to die, or to be overlooked. It was meant to actually be looked at in order for me to be able to create a greater experience from it. And I think this is one of the things about, these things that we go through. We don't see how it actually helped us to come into the transitional forms of ourselves into a betterment, and to now be able to use that experience.
Absolutely.
To be able to help someone else, and that's something that I know on a personal level that you do, and that's why I say, like, I didn't really understand. You don't meet a lot of people, man, that just really have a compassionate soul for everybody, for everything, treat everyone the same. So when I see something like this, I realize that this is just a life being itself. But I also understand it had to be something to get that life to that state of being. And that's one of the things, man, that really attracted me to you. And even to have someone just, to talk to, someone that's older, what I mean? Which for me, that's just a sense of being someone that's a little bit wiser, that I can be able to talk with or talk to that has some experiences that I may myself be able to utilize in my walk of life. And that's who we are. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
And man, you've been good at being able to do it. We're going to dive in a little bit more. We're going to go to our first video, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to dive in a little bit more.
I can go far, I can go far, I can go far, holding my name. I can go far. Many suns, many moons, seasons unchanged, gray skies turn blue. Everybody gotta live, everybody gotta die. Same thing to make you laugh, it's the same thing to make you cry. Spent many years in the field, going to war for my name. Then the nights got lost in the rain. I can't complain, it wouldn't help anyway. Gotta take the good with the bad, gotta turn the bad into good. Ain't what it seems, but it should. All day living, children dying, father leave, mothers crying, family turning on their own. Baby too weak, be strong. Lady too soft, be hard. Then you gotta finish what you start. Said many suns, many moons, seasons change, gray skies turn blue. Everybody gotta live, everybody gotta die. The same thing to make you laugh, it's the same thing to make you cry. Many suns, many moons, seasons change, gray skies turn blue. Everybody gotta live, everybody gotta die. Same thing to make you laugh, it's the same thing to make you cry. Waiting in the wall, looking for a lead to the other side. Gotta pray hard, When I got God standing on my side, I can go far, Stuck in my thoughts, holding my pride like I got faith. Hating my name, trials and tribulations, patient time got me pacing, heartbreak. Ain't nobody there when I really need them. It's crazy. Used to be the talk, I don't hear a word. It's so quiet. That's so crazy.
Lights all over me.
We back with my special guest, Justin Alexander. That was a video from Marcus Mack, Many Moons. Coming back, man, one of the things that we were saying through this small little break was about the encounters that we go through that gets us to where we at. And I guess like my question would be, how many encounters do we really have to go through before we get to that point of make or break within ourselves? And knowing that looks different for every individual, but truly, how many encounters does it take before I get to a space within myself to look at myself to say, change is now. It's not no more a waiting phase. It's now. And you came to a space where you realize, hey, reach to my higher power and say, look, I'm at this point, so something got to happen.
Absolutely.
And I think that's like important for us to be able to allow other people to know, because it's so many times that, man, we all go through. But, we quite naturally see ourselves rather than seeing all, So we have these feels like, I'm going through, and that doesn't allow me to be open enough to be able to share and to be able to be used enough to be able to help. So our experiences is what helps us, or help another, and to be able to use those experiences, and for me, I can say, I remember the last encounter that actually was make or break for me. Like the last encounter, I remember, man, and I said this before on the show, I was homeless for like 15 days when I shouldn't have been. But I was helping someone, and knowing that I was helping them for wrong purpose, you know what I mean? And they didn't return my money. So what that wind up doing was making me have to leave one phase, but not being able to go into the next. So that period and that time, you know what I mean, was a lot of reflecting for myself. And then to see how divine interception happened. You see what I'm saying? Because I did not know how anything was going to happen. I just knew where I was at and what I was going through all the fields, you know what I mean, and going through the steps and still trying to figure things out, you know, but coming to a space to where I accepted where I was at. So I could really see this thing. And a woman, man, came to my mother's house, you know, and she had told me, she was like, you know, you have helped a number amount of men to get a job, and you referred them to me. So I would like to give you the referral money for those guys because they still work for me today. Man, I had tears in my eyes because of pride. And the woman was like, look, you ain't got to take the money from me, but it just at least allow me to be able to write the check out for you. You know what I mean, to the building. Yeah. And when she did, man, I remember moving everything, the little bit that I had, into the space. And I was standing in my kitchen area, and I was able to see through the front window. And I just called out. I said, man, don't make my life no riddle no more. If you just show it to me, I'll do it. You know, and instantly, man, I saw pictures coming out of that window. And it was just faces and faces and faces and faces and faces. And I heard from the backside, and it just said, you love them more than you love me. And it kept coming faster now. And it said it again. You love them more than you love me. It kept coming. And all of a sudden I heard, but you're here and you're calling on me. And for me, man, that was groundbreaking. Yeah. I did not know the next step, but I knew which direction I was going from that point. And even inside of it, man, it had been struggles, but it was only struggles because, man, I was still struggling with letting go, relinquishing everything, not some things, but all things, in order that I could truly come into the essence of where I stand now and have that as an understanding, you know what I mean? So the encounters that we go through are important.
Absolutely.
How many before I really take on who I am, you know what I mean? So that's how I look at it, you know, and those experiences now I can talk about and I can use, you know, not as something that to hurt me, but something that, you know what I mean, empowers me. Because for me, that's traumatic.
Absolutely.
That's what you consider to be traumatic. You know, no one wants to be living in a car. No one wants to be sleeping on other people's floors. No one wants to have to go to a gym, you know what I mean, to shower to make life seem as though everything is all right when it's not, when things are not going all right. You know, and not feeling like you're in a place to where you have the support that you need to actually, you know what I mean, present life to be all right. You know, so for me, man, that's, you know, the encounters are important, but also, you know, when is it enough that you actually make that change?
Well, that was the beginning of many, as you say. I can recall, you know, an experience of coming home from Fort Hood, Texas, as a youth. You know, the encounter of sitting there smoking and drinking with a very good friend that we actually came in the military together. We went to basic training and advanced individual training together, and on a Friday afternoon, leaving on our way to his hometown of Paris, Texas, and all of a sudden finding myself in the middle of 35 in an embankment with 6-foot Johnson grass facing me. And when I stop, my vehicle is on the southbound side, headed back the opposite direction, knowing in that moment that if anything had been coming, mind you, a Friday afternoon, people are leaving out of Dallas. We're almost to Waco, going to Austin. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. But that wasn't enough. I mean, I got scared for maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Hmm.
We realized what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
We acknowledged and thanked God that we were still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But just a few minutes after that, we were back smoking and drinking again.
Hmm.
Many other encounters wasn't enough. But when I was faced with that, now mind you, I'm in church.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I'm a deacon in the church.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a title.
Yeah. Because it has to be. It's a different one if someone tells me like, "Hey, man, I'm in church, but it's church in you." You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm a deacon in the church, but it's the deacon you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
some things are, just titles. You know what I mean?
It was just a title to me then, and I remember distinctly when I left the state after that incident with my dealer. I asked God to. I desired and told him I wanted to get close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And, we serve a God with a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
He has a sense of humor. And my wife was pregnant at the time with my little daughter, and we knew that she had some complications. And so when she was born, she looked normal. And we just kept praying and everything. But by this time, I'm in my sobriety now. I'm 6 months into my sobriety. And we were told that she would possibly never be able to walk. She had neurological damage. And but we kept praying. She looked normal. 18 months passed, she's not turning over. And so we're beginning to be in acceptance now that this is what this is what this is. But mind you, I've gotten angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to I'm maintaining the sobriety because I know that I really want to get close to God. But I'm angry because of the situation with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But as time passes, I can look back and reflect that because of her illness, because she was never able to really do anything for herself, that enabled me to develop those fruit,
Mm-hmm.
that essence, that of being a doer and not just a that part of getting the church in me now.
Right.
I began to grow
Right.
as a result of that. And so, fast forward to the pandemic and the beginning of March, mind you, she had a brain aneurysm when she was born, and we were told that she might not even make it out to the hospital. The nurse basically had to take a hypodermic needle and draw 10 mils of blood off of her brain. And the nurse said, "Hey, we hope that the bleeding stops." But fast forward 20 years, she was allowed to be with us. And for those 20 years, God reminded me, remember what you asked?
Yeah. Yeah.
You said you wanted to get close to me.
Man.
And so, that child was the development.
Right.
Yeah. So you see me now.
Yeah.
To have to do everything
Right.
for another human being. And she had a wonderful way of communicating. All day, she would not have nothing to do with anybody. But the moment she heard my voice, so there was a special connection between her and me.
Right. Man, even hearing you speak that story, right? I can feel that presence or that essence on what it gives, not what it took, but what it gives. And I can say that because I remember when when I lost my son. And I remember the space that it puts me in.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of the awareness that I have now, I had told myself that I had to be the devil's child.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that I felt that was supposed to be good, it felt like robbery.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt that way because I had already felt robbed of a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I had already felt robbed of a father. I had already felt robbed of my siblings. So when it came down to a sense of family, I had already felt robbed. And losing my son, when you just said, this is when you actually became close to God, it was me saying that that's when I had found disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually wasn't a disconnect. It actually took me on the journey
Mm-hmm.
into. I was in dark spaces, but I understand the darkness is where, just like the womb, is where birth forms.
Yeah.
You know, and that 9-month phase
Mm-hmm.
was more like a 20-year phase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
but when I became born,
Mm-hmm.
renewed, rebirth, all those things now I have as experiences. All those things now I have because I have a honor for it. Everything I've been through,
Mm-hmm.
I have a passion for it. I have a heart for it that allows me to be open now and to be able to have empathy.
Absolutely.
I don't carry sympathy, but I have empathy because I understand the places.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. I don't just tell someone I've been there. I can now open my mouth, I can open my heart, and I can share the experiences. No matter how it may make me feel, because you still feel.
Yeah.
But I understand that, man, I want my feel to be felt.
Mm-hmm. Because it's really not about us.
It's not. Because someone else feels the same, but they got to be able to feel how you come out of it.
That's it. That's the whole purpose of it, you know. And so, to be able to grow from there, because being 4 and 5 years in to recovery, and my daughter is 4 or 5, and we got a wheelchair for her. She's on, you know, she's being fed G-tube, and you know, we're in acceptance, and we're loving on her, and we've gotten past our anger, and we understand that it was part of the process. You know, when you receive so much, and you're allowed to be in a place to now give back. You know, I heard a voice March the 14th. Actually, it was March the 29th of 2003. We were in my wife's hometown of Jefferson, Marshall area, and a voice as I was taking a shower that morning, my wife's birthday. It's time to go to work. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's time to go to work. I said, God, what would you have me to do? Because that's what I interpret that voice to be.
Right.
You know, I don't have much education, you know, as far as, you know, but I was able to go ahead, and I was now in a position to accept my calling as a minister, and got ordained, and actually took a couple of courses, and here, albeit I've been in the prison system, and 20 years in, and now in 2003, I'm 4 years in as a Dallas County probation officer. And so I've been around incarcerated felons all my life. And a lot of times the thing that you put here to do is your experience. Mm-hmm. And so I got connected with a church and got involved with the federal system there in Seagoville. And I've been volunteering out there since September of 2003. And so that's been a very important part of my recovery, and being able to go back in and pour in to guys, particularly when I tell you that I should have even been in the feds,
Right.
you know, to pour back and make a difference with them.
Right.
It's been a part of my journey. So all of those things, over the course of that time, I've learned that we have to meet people where they are, and we have to understand who the real enemy is. And in that, you don't get caught up in a lot of the negativity. You know, I've worked with people that allow negativity to take them to a place, and I encourage them that's just part of the environment that we're in. In order to make a difference in that negativity, we have to remain positive and display positive, even when it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And you know, that takes practice. You know, it takes practice, and it's like anything else. You know, the more you do it, the better you get, and the stronger you get.
Yeah, and it's funny that you even had even said that, you know, because when we was talking earlier before the show even started, we was talking about the difference between common sense and nonsense. And a lot of times, you know what I mean, we are people who have relied on life being so common, the common sense, the practical sense, and not really looking at what we consider to be nonsense, you know, because that to me only means the unknown sense, which means it's the sense that's not seen. For me, this is God's awareness. You know, like some people don't know why you do what you do because it's not common. You know what I mean? So this is stepping outside of the practical and stepping inside, you know what I mean, of the spiritual.
Yes.
And being able to be moved differently, to be able to create a different outcome. And we have to be people who are able to see ourselves and not get down on ourselves, but be fulfilled from what it is that we go through. I can really say, even in listening to your story, I'm pretty sure was some times we're going through the things with your daughter, life didn't feel fulfilled. You know,
Absolutely.
but to continue in the journey, I learned that's the process, the fulfillment of what's being blessed and granted to me, that teaches me on how to be. See, for me, I had to take so many steps back to outside of myself to see myself, and to really be able to see how am I in this space, no matter where I was at. So many times I've had to step back to see me in it, so I can understand how am I to be an operator inside, even if it feels uncomfortable. You know, because it was no more time for me to have bad encounters.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's something that we realize, that our experiences are the experiences that we choose to have. So I have to tell myself, how do I want to encounter this life now? Which means that based off the experience that I have and utilizing it as a tool for my present being, I have the opportunity to create a greater experience for the future.
Absolutely.
You know, but it's being able to have that type of honor, that type of love, that type of respect for the past, that it cannot hinder the present, but it can only be a tool to help in the present, to be able to see better in the future. You know, so many times, man, it's easy to fall out. You know, it's easy to be upset with life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if love is something that we see or we know to be something daily or whatnot, then why not make it easier to just love?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Myself, my fellow man, you know, that we are being people who continuously just speak life into people.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Rather than seeing life go through phases that we understand and never say nothing.
You know, and by doing that, you know, by speaking that life, you know, when I did make that transition to start giving back, you know, that solidified my own journey, where I was. There's something magical about that, about being able to be transparent about your life. And because, you know, some people need to know that they can get through this, that they can make it. And they need to understand that it really doesn't matter all this stuff behind them, because that is something that it took for them to even get to where they are today, as you were saying.
Right.
You know, one of the greatest theologues in the New Testament, you know, was a persecutor of the church. But it was that experience of being a persecutor that it enabled him, once he came into the light,
Right.
to now to be a proponent of those that was going after the way.
Right.
But that was very important part of his story. And every opportunity that he got to share that story, he would.
Yeah.
If he thought that it could impact,
Another.
he shared that story.
Yeah.
And so this is what we do when we're in the position to make a difference. Because, you know, what is it really all about? It's about love.
Right. That's real true, man. And knowing now that my life is about recovery, my life is about healing, that's an obligation now. You know what I mean? And we're going to go to another video, but when we come back, we're going to start to dive in a little bit about the obligation that I have now from a recovered lifestyle. You know what I mean? So we'll be right back.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Slow down, let it go. You can't stop a river, it must flow. Slow down, let it go. Everything is energy, just let it flow. Wolf in sheep's clothing, we know that disguise. No more can we sit with those negative vibes. So help me, Father, that I am not weak. Don't let me give up on the light that I see. Help me to be humble and make me more me. Keep the ground solid underneath my feet. You are my salvation, buckler and shield. Slow down, let it go. You can't stop a river, it must flow. Slow down, let it go. Everything is energy, just let it flow. Slow down, let it go. Slow down, let it go. You can't stop a river, it must flow. Slow down, let it go. Everything is energy, just let it flow.
All right, we back on the Transition Talk Show with my special guest, Justin Alexander. Hope you guys have been following. If you just now tuning in, it's been a very interesting show. Well, man, we're at a point now to where I really want to talk about the recovery side. From everything that done happened and everything that I've learned and all the ways that I've grown, and now that I'm in this space, this new space of recovery, how has that now impacted your life before you impact another life?
You know, during the process of recovery, you know, you being exposed in my job, supervising, you know, individuals and telling them they need to go to these 12-step meetings, and that's a part of their conditions, and you get glimpse of what that's like and what that entails, and you get introduced to the verbiage, and then because there's so many pathways of recovery,
Right.
I began to quickly realize that, man, these 12 steps of recovery is nothing different than my plan of salvation.
Right.
You know, I had to admit, I had to turn my will over. I had to, you know, stop doing things my way. I had to, you know, come with, you know, my character defects, and I had to get real with myself and go back to those I had harmed, and if it wouldn't cause more harm. And then I had to get to a place to where if I was going to continue in this pathway, I had to get to a place to where I could be of assistance to someone that reminded me of myself, or someone who reminded me of a situation that I no longer allowed to hinder me. And I had to be in a position and be ready and available to support that effort in that person. And by doing so, I quickly began to understand what the old adage is: you have to give it away in order to keep it, what that really felt like.
Right.
Because there's a feeling that comes along with that.
Right.
You know, when you are able to share your experiences,
Right.
and you're able to be transparent and let somebody know that you don't have to stay in this place, regardless of the childhood trauma, regardless of everything that you've been through. You don't have to stay in this place. You can be liberated from this space. And you need to know that what you see today in me is something that I had to do myself.
Right.
But someone encouraged me.
Right.
And so you can look back and say, man, I remember when I was on the receiving end and how that felt to me.
Right.
But now that I'm on this side trying to encourage some others, there's another feeling that comes back to me.
Right.
That lets me know that this is something that I must do.
Right.
In order to stay where I'm at.
One of the things that, for myself, I say, and understand this, I'm always quick to open the space, right, and to make sure that the space is safe. I'm a person who, on my travels, I was able to travel and learn different aspects of spirituality. You know, I grew up in a Christian home. You know, I mean, my grandmother made sure we all went to church on Sunday, even on Wednesdays. You know, she even had to be in the choirs, and you know, I mean, everything about it. Went to prison. In prison, I had the opportunity to study Islam. You know, so I began to understand the likeness more than I understood the differences. And as I began to grow and I began to accept my own spiritualism, then I began to understand that this is just an umbrella. You know what I mean? These are phases under the umbrella of one thing, and that's just spirituality, God, you know what I mean? So from that, I realized in the I'm on the air, Dion. From the from that, I had realized that I can take from our journeys, you know what I mean, to be able to have an understanding about where I'm at, right? And I remember in the Bible a passage from Paul. And Paul was speaking about this thorn in his side, and understand that this was a time that when he had already began on his pathway to saving lives, when he was a person who was killing lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I'm always reminded of it because the thorn was a reminder to him of who he once was, but why he does what it is that he do. And it gave him the humbleness.
That's right.
To be able to go through.
Yeah.
It gave him the humbleness to be able to be in prison. It gave him the humbleness to be able to be talked about. It gave him the humbleness, you know, to be able, even by disciples, to be, you know, almost outcasted.
Yeah.
Because he had a different walk, a different life, a different understanding. And because of that, you know, he had a reflection of that to keep him within himself.
Absolutely.
And for me, I can reflect on those thorns at times that pushes me forward.
Absolutely.
It's not so much of me saying ouch or man, but it's that reminder of me understanding why.
Yeah.
It's my constant reminder of why that keeps me moving forward and keeps me also in the land of recovery.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And understanding from there, I didn't have to travel back because the travelers will come forward and I would be able to meet them where they at and to be able to be of assistance to carry forward.
Absolutely.
Because we all need those supporters along the way.
Yes. Yes.
You know, especially when we're trying to find our way.
Yeah.
You know, we need those supporters. And it's good to know that we have supporters that do have the experience.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a good teacher, you know, but it's also a reference that we use in order to be able to assist, you know, and to be able to be a supporter of others and not an enabler.
That's right. You know, to come out of the light from a dark place is so liberating. It's a good thing. But what's even better is that once you come out of that dark place, you know, it's helping somebody else out of their dark space. And so, you know, we talk about obligated. You know, after 20 years with the state, 20 years with the county, you know, being able to retire at age 62, I tried to stay home and enjoy the fruits of my labor. You know, I sat there for a whole 5 weeks watching Perry Mason with the wife, who's already retired, and I couldn't take it. I said, 5 weeks of this. I mean, I love you, baby, but you know, I got to do something.
Yeah.
You know, because you can feel that complacency coming on again. You can feel yourself getting lax.
Yeah.
You know, and I got up and because it becomes a part of a necessity within you. You just can't. You know. I can't keep it to myself.
Yeah.
I got to tell somebody.
Yeah. I have to be able to will my why.
Yeah. Yeah. You know.
And that's important. You know what I mean? To be able to know about self. That is nothing in me that wants to rest outside of doing what it is that I've been called to do.
Absolutely.
And that gives me life.
Oh, yes.
You know, and not doing it makes me feel lifeless.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm a person now that really enjoys that, man. I understand my why. You know what I mean? So it pushes me, you know, in a direction in which I need to go.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a beauty that to know that we have, you know, people that lives in that purpose. And to be able to exploit that, so people can know that they have assistance out here.
Yes, sir.
And to also to show that you're not alone. You're not the only one that goes through what you're going through.
That's right.
And you don't have to feel as though you're alone or that you have to do it by yourself.
That's right.
You know, in the space of alone, I had to learn to change the ALONE to ALOAN to realize I was given this space to get better.
Yeah.
But I have to be able to see it as alone rather than me seeing it by myself, and that I utilize it in a way to enhance my life. You know, man. So I appreciate you for coming to the show. I appreciate you for sharing and being so transparent when you don't have to be. Because when we do have titles, people see us for the title.
Yeah.
And they accept us for the title, not even understanding what presented it in the first place. So, man, I thank you for the time that you have given us and coming out. I want you to be able to tell people how they can reach you and what it is that you're doing and how they can actually be able to get inside of the life of recovery.
Well, I'm fortunate to be a worker at the APA facility, Associations of Persons Affected by Addiction. We're located at 3116 Martin Luther King Boulevard, 214-634-2722. I am a recovery support peer specialist, and it's part of the life work. It's part of the life work of giving back, and fortunate enough to be a part of that organization, and just plan on continuing to do this as long as I'm able to walk. This is a part of life.
Right.
You know, giving back life keeps life, and it prepares for life. There's no greater reward than to be of service.
Right.
You know?
Servitude.
That's what life should be about for all of us. You know, making a difference to support someone less fortunate.
Yeah. I appreciate you, man, for coming on to the show. You guys, man, we're at the end of the show. I appreciate each and every last person who has been tuning in and keeping up with the Transition Talk Show. We'll see you again next Sunday.
On some real shit, I know you and your feelings, and I know you be willing, but I'm a lot to deal with. So I'm leaving, I swear you're not the reason. I'm dealing with some demons, I can't believe you're still here. I don't wanna put you through nothing else. If we don't work out, I want you to have something left. Keep pushing, you gon' run out of breath. Ooh, if you don't wanna hurt no more, if you don't want me on your nerves no more, you better run now, run now. If you don't wanna hurt no more, if you don't want me on your nerves no more, you better run out. Why don't you save yourself? Get away from me. Why don't you save yourself? Get away from me. You better run out the door while you still can. Ain't no one stopping you. You stay with me, it's suicide. I'm just wanting you. And I know you probably wonder why I'm telling you this. You can do better with another guy if you stop being foolish and stupid. But to separate from me, I'm way too toxic. Got a lot of weight on me, I ain't processed. Oh, she ain't going nowhere, she got all my made up. Been through so much over love, been through so much, I had enough. Why don't you save yourself?